monkeys.
In a world where society began getting superpowers, other known as quirks, a world where heroes were known as the ideal job, that villains and heroes were the only thing that really mattered. If you were a police officer, a doctor, and anything else, you didn't matter as much to society. So, if you were born without a quirk, there wasn't much you could do. And well, you were practically crucified for that. Having no quirk was basically a death sentence, a death wish. Something you couldn't control would hurt you so much in this society. And that is exactly what happened to this young boy. This young boy by the name of Azuku Midoriya was brought into this world without a quirk. At the age of 4, he went to the doctors with his mother, and well, the doctor deemed him to be quirkless. The kid was distraught. Azuku cried, and Inko walked in on him watching one of his favorite videos, All Might, saving hundreds of people. "Do you think I could still be like him?" His mother walks over and gives him a big hug, and she's crying as well. "Yes, I do believe, honey. I know you can. And I have a way for you to do just that." Azuku, just being a child, only the age of 4, asks his mother what is it, and that he'll do anything. And that Inko then tells him that she knows someone that is very strong in his own right. And she could call him and ask for a favor, and send Azuku away to train with him. Obviously, Azuku, being a young child, says yes, that he would love to do this, but she tells him that maybe when he's around 8 years old, she'll ask him again, and that's when he can truly decide if he wants to take this next step. So some time passes, and Azuku, over the next 4 years, begins getting bullied. But during this time of being bullied, his resolve gets greater and greater. His mother then approaches him once again about what she asked him 4 years ago. "So, honey, is your answer still the same?" "Yes, Mom. I promise I'll be the greatest hero ever. I don't care that I don't have a quirk." Inko smiles and tells him that she'll basically give him a call. So, over the next couple days or so, she calls him, getting the go-ahead. And well, Azuku was then sent to America, and Inko's friend was currently waiting. He arrives at the address that was set for him and knocks, and somebody opens the door. "You must be Inko's brat. What's your name again?" "Oh, it's..." He cuts him off and says that it doesn't matter. Anyways, and to get settled, and they are going to start right away. Azuku was then enrolled into a school in America, but before and after school, all he would do is train. "Wait, sir, I never asked you your name." "Oh, just call me Kakashi Sensei." Over the next about 7 years, Azuku began going through the harshest training he has ever gone through in his life. It made PE in school look like it was nothing. He began learning something that was beyond just a quirk, quote unquote. It was known as chakra. Kakashi Sensei began teaching him the basics, being able to walk up trees, walk on water, and stuff like that. And Azuku slowly but surely began getting used to this. But Kakashi told him that learning chakra and how to use it was far beyond anything that they have ahead of them. He needs to learn more combat skills, situational awareness, and how to use various other techniques that himself knows. What kind of techniques? Kakashi then throws up some hand signs, and lightning begins to appear out of his hand. Like this, kid. Azuku is in complete awe at the fact that there's lightning in Kakashi's hand, and he asks him what quirk does he have and how is he doing that? Kid, I told you, I don't have a quirk. I basically don't even know what quirks are. This is something else, like I said. Chakra is something, I guess you could say, in the past. But now that I, can teach you it, maybe it will continue on in the future. Azuku tells him that he's determined and that he won't let him down, and that he'll pass on the usage of chakra to future generations as well. Good to hear. Now let's continue your training. So for the next 7 years or so, Azuku trains in everything possible, anything he can learn in those 7 years, and eventually, with 5 months left until the UA entrance exam, he was able to finish up all the education he needed to basically qualify for the UA entrance exam. So Kakashi tells him that, his training is currently over, and to practice anything and everything he's ever been taught, and make sure to continue to sharpen his tools. Azuku thanks him, and hopes that one day they will meet again, and maybe Kakashi can come visit in the near future. I don't know, kid. We'll see. Not really a big fan of Japan. Azuku kinda laughs at this, and then he gets his ticket and hops on a plane. When he arrives, he's greeted by his mother, and his mother can barely recognize him. Azuku has grown up so much to this point, and he looks like an actual young man, being that he's actually about, I would say, 5'10" at this point, and he's pretty bulky. He's been training practically for the last 7 years straight, so it makes sense, how strong he has gotten. Inko asks him what type of training he has done, and he remembers back to all of the harsh training through complete and utter brutal beatdowns that he got from Kakashi himself, to eventually being able to keep up somewhat to what Kakashi is able to do physically, as well as in terms of taijutsu, ninjutsu, and all of the above. But he tells his mother that Kakashi told him that this training of his is never over. That even if it's not training with him, that it's going to be training by himself or with others. That knowing what only Kakashi knows won't be enough. That trying to develop your skills and sharpen them is just as important. And Azuku takes this to heart. Over the next 5 months, he obviously studies because he wants to make sure that he's good in terms of his mental capabilities, but also he begins trying to learn some of his own techniques. He begins training and trying to develop his own attacks and special moves, and eventually he's actually able to create one of his own. But he doesn't have quite good control over it, and it kind of drains him completely if used improperly. So after the 5 months, the UA entrance exam finally arrives. Azuku walks up to the giant auditorium and stares at it. Damn, this place is massive. There is not that many places like this in America. He walks up and he basically just is in complete shock and awe at how big the area is. All the schools he went to were very minor and small. And he even went to, his first year of high school there, which is 9th grade. And he didn't even realize that school to be that large. But this is a whole new thing. This is on the level of a university. So he enters and he begins to basically just sit down at the number that was given to him. He listens in as President Mike begins to explain. Hey little listeners! First off, we're going to be doing a written exam, so check the number on your card and head to the room. He does so, and Azuku heads to the room. He begins his test, and he realizes that it's not too difficult, but definitely not easy by any means. So he feels pretty confident about finishing it, but I mean personally, he feels that this test is a lot harder than anything he's really done in America. But luckily he did study a little bit during that 5-month span. After the written portion was done after about 2 hours, everyone heads back to the auditorium. And when they arrive, President Mike basically just begins to explain the next portion of the UA entrance exam. Okay, little listeners, next up we have the practical. We're gonna have all of you be fighting robots. There's gonna be a 1-pointer, 2-pointer, 3-pointer, and even before President Mike can explain the very last robot, a blue-haired boy stands up, saying that it's very unprofessional to leave out a robot, and that he should be reported to UA for incompetency. And President Mike kinda stands there and bites his tongue, annoyed at this kid. But Azuku walks up to the kid and asks him to please sit down, that President Mike was just about to finish. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. I will sit down and be quiet. The boy by the name of Ida Tenya sits down, and so does Azuku. President Mike thinks that thank God that kid said something, because he felt like he was going to lose his mind. Okay, like I was saying, there is also a 0-point robot. Don't worry about this one. If you see it, I would just run away, avoid it. You don't even get points for it. So then everyone heads out to the gate and waits for it to swing open. When it opens, Azuku begins sprinting out, and he begins immediately trying his best to destroy the robots. And he's actually able to pretty well. He got permission initially from UA to use these things called kunais, or aka these sharp knives that he basically has been training with for the last 7 years, and with these and his chakra control, it is pretty easy. So he begins destroying as much as he can, and he racks up a decent amount of points. Nothing insane. He's been training for the last 7 years, but chakra in this world is very hard to control, so he even knows himself that he has some work to do. But he would destroy about 50 to 60 points worth of robots and continues destroying, trying to basically keep up with the others, if not pass them, and eventually getting to about 90 points, in which he feels is most likely enough to pass. So he decides to basically not hunt out any more robots to allow other people to try to get more points. And as he waits on, rumbling can be felt throughout the entire testing area. What the hell is going on? He looks up to see a giant robot appearing from a building? What the heck is UA even thinking? That thing's gonna kill someone. Azuku is about to run away until he hears a young female scream. He looks to see someone trapped under the rubble. He makes a beeline to the person pushing the rubble off, but looks up to see that the 0-pointer is not stopping. So he decides to use something that even Kakashi told him not to use. Kakashi a long time ago taught him how to use something other known as the lightning blade or chidori, and he told Azuku that without his eyes capabilities being higher than what they are right now, he won't be able to, control them based on a counterattack. And Azuku told him that he won't use this technique unless, it's in a dire situation. And Kakashi told him that he might as well not use it at all, because if he's using the technique, then he will most likely be put in a worse situation because of it. But Azuku realized that this is a robot. The robot is massive, and that this is the only chance. That robots must have circuitry within them. So, if he strikes it at just the right point, he might be able to fry it. So, He throws hand signs, and lightning begins to emerge from his hand. Even the teachers in the stands who are currently watching are shocked by this. Aizawa, what's that boy's quirk?
Oh, let me check. It seems his quirk is... he's quirkless. How does that even make sense?
Oh my, now that is interesting. Azuku then uses his Chidori and charges at the robot, punching a hole through it and hoping that he lands right on the prime area of where all the circuitry is, in which he didn't realize, but he didn't really need to aim. When he lands it, the entire robot begins to short circuit and falls backwards. Azuku falls on his back and begins panting. Oh yeah, that's pretty tiring. I'm tired. Okay. He gets up and helps the girl to her feet and carries her to Recovery Girl. He puts her down and she begins thanking him continuously, but he says that it's fine and he just walks away. She tries to ask for his name, but Midoriya was already gone. Okay, I just want to go home. This is ridiculous. At this point, well, Azuku isn't very good with social interactions. He didn't really do much socializing in high school, well, his 1 year of high school, and, well, didn't do much socializing over the 7 years other than with Kakashi. And, well, Kakashi is kind of not the best at socializing in the first place anyways, so that kind of rubbed off on him as well. He arrives at home and his mom actually asks him how he did. Yeah, I think I did pretty well. I'm just extremely exhausted. Oh, why is that? Oh, you know, the usual, sending lightning through robots. He walks upstairs and goes to sleep. Lightning through robots? Inko is confused, but then remembers that Kakashi did teach him those techniques. After some time, Azuku finally got his letter from UA, and when he opened it, a hologram began appearing.
Azuku Midoriya, it's me, All Might, and I would like to tell you that you have made it into UA. You are enrolled in Class 1A, and not only that, you got the highest score in the entrance exam.
The highest score?
You may be questioning, highest score?
Yo, you can hear me? All Might continues, and obviously it's a hologram and it can't hear him. But All Might explains that Azuku did get, well, less points than a couple people if you were just counting the robot points, which 90 wouldn't have got him first place. But defeating the giant zero-pointer and saving that girl gave him 60 more points, putting him at the #1 spots in the entrance exam. Whoa, no way. You know what? That actually does make sense though. Hero points? I mean, I don't know why I didn't even think of that in the first place. I just did it because I was trying to be heroic or whatever. Definitely something to keep in mind. He then tells his mother of, well, that he got in, and she's super excited for him. And, well, he's excited as well. So, the next day was the first day of, well, his hero journey. He enters Class 1A, and the first thing he sees is his childhood friend, Katsuki Bakugo. Oh my god. Kachan. Bakugo looks at him and tilts his head. The hell? Wait, are you Deku? How the hell you get in here? Oh, I got into UA. What do you mean how? I took the entrance exam. That's not what I mean, you damn nerd. I mean, you're quirkless. The people who are currently in class are shocked by this. That this kid, he's quirkless and he got into UA. Well, yeah, Kachan, I'm quirkless, but why do you think I left for like 7 years? I left to train so I can get here. But you're still questioning me being quirkless. I honestly don't get your mindset. Azuku then walks away and sits down. Bakugo is visibly confused. Midoriya has never talked to him this way at all. He's always been this shy and very timid kid, but now it's like he's socially awkward, but at the same time confident? No. He's confident, but he's confident to the point where he doesn't even understand insults. Bakugo ponders on this for a while and wonders who this new Azuku even is. Well, Azuku knows who he is. Azuku knows that he's pretty socially awkward, but I mean, he was able to talk to Kacchan or Bakugo pretty easily because, I mean, he recognized him. They used to be best buddies. Obviously, Bakugo bullied him a lot, but they used to be like as if they were brothers or best friends, so it was easy for him to talk to him. In terms of the other people, well, Azuku doesn't really go out of his way to talk to people. Eventually, the girl that he saved entered class and spotted him. "Hey, you're the one that saved me, right?" "Oh, yeah, okay." "Oh, I'm Ochaku Uraraka. I just wanted to introduce myself." "Oh, Azuku Midoriya? Yeah, I saved you. You're welcome, I think." She kind of laughs at this and can tell that Azuku is a little, like I said, socially awkward, until the teacher then arrives. "Everyone shut up and sit down before I expel you. Alright, now listen up. Before you ask anything, orientation, not doing it. It's dumb, waste of time, okay? My name's Shota Aizawa. I will be your teacher for the next 3 years. If you got a problem with me, I can expel you now. Makes my life a lot easier. Now everyone get outside and we're going to be doing a quirk assessment. Hurry up." Everyone is kind of shocked by this, but Azuku kind of likes him. He reminds him of Kakashi in a way. But I mean, like, Kakashi was pretty serious in the beginning and then got a little bit more lighthearted toward the end of their training. So he actually enjoys the presence. It's like as if he was training under Kakashi once again. So they all head out, and eventually Aizawa explains what they're doing. "Listen, this is going to be like your physical exams in middle school. It's pretty simple. You're going to be throwing a ball as far as you can, yada yada, all this other stuff. But you're allowed to use your quirk. Let's see, who got first in the entrance? You." He points at Azuku and throws the ball at him. "You got first in the entrance exam, so throw the ball as far as you can, or whatever." So Azuku does just that. He actually summons some blue orb in his hand. What he's using is more like a, well, imperfect Rasengan. He was able to learn the Chidori, but he actually wasn't able to perfect the Rasengan because, well, he didn't necessarily have enough time. Because a lot of the time he did use was basically to train his physical body, hand-to-hand combat, learning the basics. So really he didn't have enough time to master this technique. But the imperfect one, or the imperfect Rasengan, actually works perfect for, well, this situation. He uses it and throws the ball, and it gives the ball that extra push. "Oh, 500 meters. Oh, that's pretty impressive. And you're quirkless too. That's pretty good, kid. Good job. Go back in line." The rest of the class that actually wasn't there when, well, Bakugo announced that Azuku was quirkless begins questioning, how is he quirkless? He was able to throw the ball 500 meters. If he was quirkless, that would make him one of the strongest, well, men on the planet. Maybe even one of the strongest people on the planet. Well, without a quirk. "Oh, I mean, I just used this technique." He shows it once again and then makes it disappear. Aizawa tells them all to shut up. "Actually, since you guys want to act all fun and that this is going to be so much fun, hero work isn't fun. It's brutal. So how about this? Let's up the stakes. If you get last place, you'll be expelled. Makes things easier for me anyways. Half of you are useless." All the students are shocked by this, but Azuku just weirdly smiles, thinking back to the training that Kakashi did. Basically, Kakashi would tell him that if he couldn't get this one thing right by the next morning, that he wouldn't be able to eat breakfast. Azuku kind of chuckles at this, and Aizawa sees him laugh and asks him what he finds funny. "Oh, I'm sorry, sensei. It was more of I was just relating to something. My old master would do something very similar to what you're doing right now."
I see. Well, your master's smart. Because, well, it's the only way to get you all to sharpen up. Now, let's continue the test.
Azuku just got done with the ball throw, and he threw it pretty far. Nothing to basically blink your eye at. And then next, they basically just have the rest of the people or the students go up and do the ball throw as well. And most of them get about the same as in canon, in which Bakugo gets around that 900 mark and Uraraka gets infinity, stuff like that. Throughout the entire exam, Azuku does pretty well. He doesn't have a quirk by any means, but he's pretty physically trained, so he's pretty fast nonetheless, no matter what. And he actually finds nice little ways that he can use certain techniques to speed up his progress or do better in certain exams. But he ends up getting about 5th place. And well, Aizawa threatened the last person that is currently Hagakure that she would get expelled if they ended up in last. So he begins talking about it.
I was just messing with you guys. It was just a logical ruse to make you try your hardest.
Most of them are shocked by this, but again, Azuku kind of chuckles at it, thinking that is something that Kakashi would 100% do. And Momo just tells them that, well, they didn't expect that, and maybe she should have said something. And the rest of the class kind of said, yeah, she should have. So, after nobody gets expelled, everyone is then sent home. The next day, Aizawa then basically greets the whole class in and begins explaining what they will be doing.
Okay, listen up. Today, well, I won't be teaching you. You're going to be doing some type of training with a different teacher. And he should be here about now.
All Might then busts in the room.
I am here, walking through the door like a normal person.
Everyone screams, All Might! And he tells them all to get on their hero costumes and meet him at Ground Gamma. Azuku does just that, and he wears something simple, something very similar to what's in the thumbnail. He has like just a simple mask and a hoodie, leaning more into that assassin type vibe. He likes paying homage to that mask. Well, I mean, obviously to Kakashi, and then he feels that he doesn't need anything crazy to basically sustain what he already knows. So he can keep his like kunais and stuff like that pretty easily in a nice hoodie. So he doesn't really mind something simple. Well, when they all arrive, and when Azuku arrives, All Might begins explaining what they will be doing.
Listen up. You all will be doing hero versus villain training. Heroes will try to capture the villains or capture the bomb, and the villains will try to protect the bomb within the building.
He then tells them that the first team to, well, do it will be Azuku and Uraraka versus Bakugo and Ida as the villains in the very first match. They all walk over to the building, and, well, Azuku and Uraraka begin planning. So Bakugo and Ida, huh? Well, first things first, we kinda need to, well, track down where that bomb is. Azuku then bites his thumb really hard, and Uraraka is confused. She asks him what is he doing and why would he just inflict pain on himself. Oh, don't worry about that. Just trust me. Summoning jutsu. He summons something and it's a little dog. He explains to Uraraka that this is kind of part of his powers, skills, something like that. And the dog will help him basically scout out where the bomb is. So, right when the match starts, the dog runs in. And basically, he just runs by Bakugo, because Bakugo didn't really pay attention to a tiny little puppy running by him. Azuku then tells Uraraka to follow the dog, and that he will handle Bakugo. Bakugo scoffs at this, saying that Azuku is just some quirkless loser, that he's not gonna win. Yeah, whatever, Bakugo. You wanna fight or keep talking? Bakugo charges at him, throwing his quote-unquote vintage right hook, in which Azuku immediately slips under, grabbing and slamming him on the ground. Azuku just looks at Bakugo confused. Really? Same thing as kids, huh? I feel like you would have grown out of that right hook. Bakugo is visibly frustrated and tries to blast Azuku in the face, in which he thinks he did. He thinks he landed right on the face, and when the smoke clears, Azuku's standing there. But then poofs. He poofs into a log, and Azuku is behind Bakugo and quickly knocks him out. Well, I guess you got some training to do, Bakugo. He runs up the stairs to catch up to Uraraka, and finally does before she actually interacts with Ida. Quickly, Azuku throws a kunai at Ida, in which he tries to dodge. And he does successfully, but he reacts and says, what is he trying to do? Kill him. And if he's trying, is he trying to kill him? And Azuku just closes the distance, kicking him away from the bomb. Uraraka then touches the bomb, and well, the speakers then come on.
The hero team wins.
Ida realizes that Azuku wasn't even trying to hit him, and that the kunai wasn't even thrown at a very fast rate, so it was pretty easy to dodge. Azuku actually tells him this, that he wouldn't even try to hurt him. He just knows that he wouldn't stand in front of a kunai to get hit on purpose. They then all basically leave, and well, Azuku picks up Bakugo and brings him back to the class, in which Bakugo's not really hurt. He was kind of just quickly knocked out, so he's fine. He doesn't really need Recovery Girl. When they arrive, All Might commends Azuku that he had a very, very good plan in terms of using every single technique or ability that he has, and well, he used it to practically perfection, and that he did it in the most efficient way possible. And as a hero, that is a big thing you want to do. You never want to draw out a fight over some petty argument or anything else. And he even says that with Bakugo, and Bakugo spurting out basically insults like a villain would, Azuku still decided to take the high road and tried to knock him out as fast as possible. And that would give him the MVP of this match. Azuku thanks him for commending him, but says that he still has a lot to learn. All Might actually smiles at this and is pretty impressed by this kid, and that maybe if he didn't give his power away already, that this kid would be a perfect person for it. Well, then the rest of the matches go on as normal, and eventually they are all dismissed. Leading to the very next day, in which Aizawa begins to explain what's going on for that day.
Okay, listen up. Today we'll be going to the USJ. Before you ask, it's the UA's property. It's for rescue. It's a rescue facility. So we're all gonna be going there. There's gonna be another teacher, and All Might should be joining us as well. And basically, you'll be training there. But this is different type of training. It's not gonna be like what All Might had you doing in terms of fighting each other. You'll be trying to rescue people in certain situations. Alright, now everyone go out to the buses. Everyone listens and heads over to the buses, and they all sit down and basically they start driving off. And all of them begin talking about who they believe has the strongest quirk. Some talk even about Midoriya, that he's super strong and that he doesn't even have a quirk. So they should be really talking about who is the strongest fighter. And well, he kind of butts in, normally being very quiet, but showing some, openness to talk about it. And he basically tells them that he knows his own limits. Yeah, I'm strong for say, but without a quirk, there are definitely limits to what I can do. All I know how to do is just end a fight really quickly. It's more brain than brawn, I guess, but in some situations I can out-brawn someone, quote unquote. They are all actually shocked by this response, and most of them kind of agree that you can see how he quickly defeated Bakugo, in which Bakugo gets mad about and just scoffs but doesn't say much.
But they also talk about how Todoroki having 2 quirks and that pure power output would make it really difficult for Midoriya to defeat him if it came to that. Which Midoriya just nods, and even he knows that to be true. Eventually, they arrive at the USJ, in which they're greeted by Pro Hero 13. Uraraka, just like in canon, is super excited about meeting her basically hero, until Kirishima spots something. Hey, look over there! No way, you guys have fake villains? Fake villains? What are you talking about, kid? Aizawa turns to see a giant portal in the middle of the USJ. He tells everyone to get back and stay put, that these are no fake villains. He jumps down to basically fight over 100 villains, it seems like, and he begins doing a pretty good job. Until, well, the main villains then decide to take their chance. And Kurogiri, in which is he has this giant warp portal, approaches all the students in an instant. And Pro Hero 13 is about to counter with her black hole quirk, but Bakugo and Kirishima jump in before she can. She screams at them, telling them to get out of the way, but they don't listen, and they get warped away, including with the entire class. Azuku then teleports away and falls into a giant lake. Luckily, Sue is able to grab him before he has to actually fight a villain, and she throws him on a mini yacht. Sue basically asks everyone if they're okay, in which it's Mineta and Azuku, and Azuku immediately tells her that they need to come up with a plan, and that the biggest thing that he noticed is that these villains, they're prepared, but at the same time very unprepared. She asks him what he means. Why would they send you somewhere with water? If they knew your quirk, then they wouldn't have done this. Makes 0 sense. Asui then realizes what he's saying and agrees. But how does that, help them? I have a plan. It's kind of risky, but it will definitely get us out of here. They both say that they're completely interested in what is it. I've been working on a technique for a while now. I can use a minor version of it so I don't pass out. And I can basically electrocute everyone down there, but it's going to be me jumping into that water. And when you get the chance and everyone else is fried, I'm going to stop using my technique. And you have to grab me out of the water, or I'll probably get fried as well. Asui is kind of confused, but says that if that's their only option they can think of, then maybe they should give it a try. Yeah, if I get fried, I get fried. I'm sure I'll survive. Maybe. Azuku then begins to sit down and cross his legs and begins meditating. They both ask what he's doing, and he explains that he needs to meditate for a second before using the technique, because it does take a lot of concentration, even if it's just a small amount of energy surge that he's going to be using. Or, in this case would be chakra, but he's not going to tell them that it's chakra. That's too confusing to explain. So, just like his Chidori, in terms of putting electricity in one's hand, he actually expands it all across his body. But it's very mild. But as you know, when electricity hits water, it don't matter how mild it is, there's going to be impact. So he decides that he's ready, and electricity charges around his body, and he jumps in the water. When he does, all the villains try to converge on him, but begin getting electrocuted and basically fried. They all pass out, and he's able to basically be rid of the chakra that's maintaining this electricity, and Asui jumps over, grabbing him and throwing him basically to the other side of the lake, and she swims the rest of the way, not being able to, make it the entire way in one jump. After this occurs, they finally get back to land, and they basically see Aizawa dominating all these small fry villains. Damn, Sensei's pretty impressive. I think we're good here. I think we should probably try to get back to our class, or try to get back to a safer spot. Mineta and Asui agree, until, a giant monster begins stomping his way to Aizawa. And that is known as the Nomu. The Nomu arrives and looks dead in Aizawa's face, and Aizawa tries to cancel his quirk as he sprints at him. But the Nomu kicks Aizawa into the wall hard. And when he gets kicked, Aizawa's practically out of commission already. Aizawa tries to get back up, but the Nomu's on him already, grabbing his face, crushing it. At least trying to crush it. Azuku realizes that nobody else is here to help, and well, like Aizawa said, that All Might was supposed to be here, he currently isn't here anyways. So Azuku takes it upon himself to try his best and help. He activates his, a Chidori, and he charges at the Nomu at lightning speed. Basically, nobody is able to see him. He just hopes that this Nomu can't dodge. When he strikes the Nomu, it definitely injures him, but his arm then gets stuck in the Nomu. Oh shit, this is not good. The Nomu then punches Azuku out of the way, and he goes flying. Azuku looks at his arm, and luckily it's not broken, but it's definitely damaged. Kid, what are you doing? Get out of here. Azuku stands up and looks dead in the Nomu's face. No, I don't think I will, Aizawa-sensei. I can stall him. We just have to stall him long enough, right? Until All Might arrives? Azuku looks at Aizawa, and Aizawa just nods. Okay, I can give that time. Just don't die. Aizawa basically looks at Azuku and tells him that that's his line. And they both get up even though Aizawa is aching in pain. Azuku charges at the Nomu, using his sorta superior mobility to basically bob and weave out. Azuku also uses shadow clones to his advantage, not being able to obviously use tons of them. He doesn't have insane chakra reserves, and frankly, to his knowledge, he just built up chakra reserves. And the way Kakashi explained it was that he's something about it being not prevalent in today's society. He never understood that part of his training. Kakashi just explained it that you have to basically build up one's inner being to use chakra. Azuku still can't really wrap his head around it, but just thinks that he basically has just enough chakra to do what he's doing right now, and in terms of stalling. He creates practically 3 shadow clones and just dances around the Nomu as best as possible. And Shigaraki notices this, that he's just stalling for time, and tries to basically approach Azuku himself until a noise at the front of the USJ is heard.
No need to fear, because I am here.
Everyone looks to see All Might. Took you long enough, god damn. Azuku is visibly tired at this point, but with his last bit of chakra, he slams his hand on the ground, sending electricity toward the Nomu, slightly shocking him and stunning him. All Might sees this and realizes that that is a free opening, charging in and screaming, "Detroit Smash!" After All Might punches the Nomu, Azuku instantly passes out due to the overusage of chakra, and when his vision is blurring and going away, he sees All Might finishing off the Nomu. He then abruptly wakes up in Recovery Girl's office. She explains that he has been out for about a day, so that the UA Sports Festival, actually will be pretty soon. He is shocked by this, and he realizes he needs to prepare, and he runs out of the office as quick as possible to go train and get ready for school, eventually leading to the first day of the UA Sports Festival. Midnight announces all the classes and then spins a wheel to find out what the first event is. And the first event is the obstacle course race. All the classes and the people in attendance are excited to see the first event, and all the classes line up. Once the event starts, ice covers the first corridor. Initially, most people thought that this was just an obstacle, but this was actually someone from Class 1A. Shoto Todoroki just froze the entirety of the corridor and is now sprinting across it. Well, a lot of the hero students were able to easily dodge this, including Azuku, in which he just slid by it pretty easily. And he's actually able to run across the ice without even slipping at all. Then they come across the next obstacle, which are the giant zero-pointer robots, in which Azuku uses his speed to basically just nimble his way through the robots and get past the robots before actually Todoroki can drop the huge one on him. With Bakugo in basically hot pursuit, Todoroki is in first, Azuku is in second, and Bakugo is in third. They then come across the next obstacle, which is the giant cavern or the giant ravine, in which Azuku can get across pretty easily using his control over chakra, but with Bakugo being able to fly, Bakugo is actually able to take the lead on the both of them, but Azuku is able to pass up Todoroki himself. After defeating that obstacle, they all begin to be in a hot pursuit of each other once again. Well, more like a hot pursuit of Bakugo, until they get to the very last obstacle, which is a minefield. Azuku is kind of confused by this, but decides that he has an idea to get across, but it's kind of probably going to help other people. Instead of trying to tiptoe around and not hit the mines, he creates shadow clones, well, 2 of them precisely, and using 2 imperfect Rasengans, he launches himself toward the finish line and past the entirety of the minefield. But he does something odd. Azuku doesn't even walk across the finish line. He waits. Todoroki and Bakugo pass him, and he walks in as third place. The crowd is confused as well as the other students until, well, the next event is talked about. The cavalry battle is announced, and it's said that the first place winner holds a 10 million point band. Azuku assumed something of this realm, that you wouldn't be chasing for first place for no reason. So he assumed that, well, the next event must have some handicap on the first place person. So he was right, and he ends up getting his team, in which would be the same as canon in terms of Uraraka, Meihatsume, Tokiyami, but this time they have enough points to pass, but find it a lot easier since they're not being targeted so heavily. On top of that, Azuku arguably has more and more strategies than to easily hold their own band and grab a couple others. Remember, Azuku had no problem coming up with plans in canon, and this what if, he is even better at planning. He's pretty precise in terms of everything he does. After the cavalry battle, the 1v1 tournament to end the UA Sports Festival is then announced. The first match after their break will be Azuku versus Shinso. After about a 10-minute or so break, Azuku and Shinso begin walking out to the stage, and Shinso begins immediately talking to Azuku. Yeah, you're so lucky, huh? Having a quirk like yours. What is it exactly? It's strong, right? Azuku stands there and doesn't speak a word. Shinso begins questioning himself. Does this kid know? Does he know my quirk? Come on, speak. You're so blessed, right? No words. Azuku doesn't speak again. Why is that? Does he know? The match is then set to begin, and President Mike tells them to fight. Azuku slowly walks towards Shinso, and Shinso keeps trying to get anything out of him. Get anything for him to talk, something. Azuku stays silent and keeps walking forward. Shinso is visibly frustrated by this and begins charging at Azuku. He comes in with a right hook, but Azuku easily dodges it. It's like he's training Shinso or something. Shinso begins trying to strike down Azuku, but he easily dodges in and out of all the attacks. Well, Azuku has actually heard of Shinso's quirk. Someone from his actual class told him. A student by the name of Ojiro told Azuku that once he responded to Shinso, he, fell under this weird hypnosis. It was like he couldn't control any of his actions. And when Azuku heard this, he took this to heart. He didn't want to underestimate someone that he knew so little about. So he decided to just stay quiet the entire match. He was quickly able to defeat Shinso very easily. Shinso wasn't trained very well, and even Azuku recognized this very quickly. He, realized that he just is so reliant on his quirk. So when Azuku eliminates Shinso, that's exactly what he tells him. You know, you shouldn't rely on your quirk so much. You'll get into a situation like this, where a villain or someone else will know your quirk and just counter it just like that. So why not figure something out? Why not learn hand-to-hand combat, something? Shinso scoffs and says that he doesn't know anything, and that having a quirk like his would make it easy, but Azuku cuts him off. Shinso, I'm quirkless. I trained for this power. Now, I think you should most likely do the same. You can become a lot stronger, and with a quirk like that, it would definitely put you in a good spot to join the hero course. Shinso is shocked by this. He never even brought up the fact that he wanted to join the hero course, so why would Azuku bring it up? It's pretty obvious that you want to join the hero course, Shinso, and I know you can do it, but you have to put in more work than what you're putting in now. Well, maybe we'll talk another time. Azuku then walks away after he helps up Shinso to his feet. The match is then deemed to be over, and Azuku is obviously the winner. He walks back to the stands and begins watching the other fights until, his next fight is announced, which is him versus Todoroki. He ponders this for a second and realizes that he is at a massive disadvantage. He has said it before, Todoroki in terms of raw strength is definitely stronger than him, but Azuku does have some things up his sleeve that could maybe win him this fight, but there's no guarantee. That's if Todoroki uses both of his quirks, that's for sure. If he uses only his ice side, this fight will basically go in the favor of Azuku pretty easily. Azuku is called out to the stage and he walks out to confront Todoroki. Todoroki doesn't say a word, and right when the match starts, he blasts a giant iceberg at Azuku, in which Todoroki thinks that the fight is over, but fire begins to melt the ice within. What the hell? He says he doesn't have a quirk. A giant hole is melted in the iceberg, and Azuku walks out of it. See, raw strength is one thing, Todoroki, but you won't be winning this match without the use of your fire. If we're talking about a match of longevity, I promise I'll be the winner. Shoto then scoffs at this and launches more ice at Azuku, but Azuku's not willing to get hit by the ice again, so he easily dodges to the side and begins to close the distance as fast as possible. He begins flipping over the ice, dodging in between shots, and eventually gets right to Todoroki. Azuku grabs Todoroki's arm, but not the side where he can produce ice. It's the one he can produce fire. He slams him on the ground, and the rest of the fight, he stays on that side. You know, if you could use your fire, this would be a lot easier. He then hears from the stands someone cheering on Todoroki, screaming to use his fire, and that the kid is right. Azuku is confused by this, and doesn't even know who the man is until he turns around to see Endeavor. Oh, your pops is Endeavor. That kinda makes sense, I guess. Shoto gets mad when Azuku says this and says that it doesn't make sense, and that his father cursed him with a quirk he doesn't want, and that he doesn't want to be a hero using his father's power, and he'll only use his eyesight. Azuku is visibly annoyed by this, dashing in front of Todoroki at very fast speeds. It was like he wasn't even taking this seriously. But Azuku wasn't, for say. He was basically trying to get Todoroki to use his other side, but when he heard that Todoroki scoffed at his own quirk, saying that it wasn't even his, Azuku was mad. Azuku didn't even have his own quirk. He worked for years to gain the power he has, and even most people with high level quirks would stomp on him, destroy him. It wouldn't be fair. Kakashi even brought this up during training before, that raw talent and raw power, it makes it hard to keep up if you're going based on just the will of oneself. Kakashi told him stories of a man that he knew, that all he did was train, and he surpassed Kakashi himself. But if Kakashi just kept up with his training, pushed himself harder, the talent would have shown, that he would have stayed beyond his friend, and that Azuku needs to push himself beyond every speck of every limit. Azuku begins shouting at Todoroki that that is his quirk, and that Azuku would die for a quirk like that, die for the raw power that he needs, die for the talent that he sought for. He trained for years for the power he has now, and now he has someone in front of him with one of the most powerful quirks he's ever seen, and he scoffs at it. He calls it a curse. You know what's a curse, Todoroki? Not having a quirk in a society where you need one, where everybody wants to be a hero. But since I was quirkless, I couldn't be one. But I found a way. I pushed myself. And now you're telling me that that's not your quirk, that it's cursed? Todoroki tells him that he doesn't understand. No, you don't understand, Todoroki. That's not your father's quirk. That's your quirk. Think about it. All that strength that you have. You really think that's your father's? No. That's yours. Todoroki begins to argue, but then thinks back to a long time ago, when he was sitting with his mother watching the television screen. Sitting there, watching All Might and All Might Special or something. And his mother told him that he can be the hero he wants to be. His mother is the one that gave him that scar that would be on him forever until he grew old. But he resented only his father, because he was the reason his mother did that. She was in such fear of him. That's why it happened. He realized that the quirk that he had, his mother even deemed as his own. She didn't see it as a curse. She didn't see him as a curse. So why would he restrict himself now? Flames erupt from Todoroki, and a large smirk grows over his face. Endeavor in the background can be heard screaming and excited, but the flames that Todoroki is emitting and the pure white noise around both of them was blocking it out. There was nobody else but them two, and they were ready for their final battle. Todoroki laughs and thanks Azuku. That it's crazy to think that someone who is quirkless would be giving him this lecture. Azuku doesn't take offense to it at all and begins laughing. Yeah, sometimes you have to do what you have to do, right? Shoto is ready for a fight, and so is Azuku. Multiple shadow clones basically appear around Azuku, and they go charging at Todoroki, beginning to try to close the distance. But with his fire, it makes it extremely hard now. Azuku realizes this, and needs to up the ante. Lightning begins covering Azuku's body, and he smirks. Now there's no holding back, Todoroki. Let's make this a spectacle. Azuku charges in at insane speeds. Being covered in this lightning-like effect, he's able to barrel through basically all of Todoroki's attacks, striking him. And once he hits him, Todoroki can feel the electricity coursing through him, getting shocked incredibly, knocking him out of the arena. Azuku jumps out, basically to help Todoroki up as the electricity dissipates from him, and he does so. He tells Todoroki that it was a good fight, and that if he just gets more control over his fire, he'll be practically unstoppable. But as he says this, Azuku collapses to the ground and begins kind of twitching a little bit. Midoriya, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. This is kind of what happens when I use that technique, at a really high level. Shoto helps him up and drags him away, and basically they both are kind of double KO'd because, well, Midoriya can't really recover in time for the next battle. So the rest of the fights go on, and Bakugo ends up winning the UA Sports Festival. He's still pretty pissed that he wasn't able to fight either Todoroki or Azuku because they literally double KO'd each other, but he's not too mad about it. He still won, and he feels he won pretty fair and square. And if he wants to fight them later, he can. So he doesn't have this huge, tantrum at basically the award ceremony. After that was finished, everyone was given about 2 days off because of how intense the festival was, and when they got back to school, Aizawa began explaining to them what their next task would be.
Okay, listen up. All of you got internship offers, good or bad or whatever, because of the UA Sports Festival. I'm gonna hand all of you out papers so that you could choose which one you want. So look on the screen and you can see who got the most. Todoroki at the top, Bakugo second, Azuku third, so on and so forth. Azuku was kind of surprised by this, that he got so high up there, but I guess they kind of found out he was quirkless and want to know how he's able to output the power he was outputting. Azuku begins flipping through the pages and looking at basically what internships offered him, and a lot of the people weren't high level internships. It was a lot of very low level internships until he came across one. Endeavor? He looks at Todoroki, and Todoroki just looks away quickly. Okay, you guys all have till the end of the day to choose. Hurry up and pick. I really don't care. Just leave the classroom now. Goodbye. I'm going to bed.
Aizawa then collapses into his sleeping bag, and Class 1A leaves. But Azuku asks Todoroki what this is about.
Oh, I may or may not have told my father to maybe give you an offer.
I thought you didn't even like your father. Todoroki says that it's true, but his father kind of brought him up, sort of. And when he brought up his name, he kind of leaned toward the idea of Azuku being a training partner for Todoroki. But it was kind of Todoroki's excuse to, get someone to go to Endeavor's agency with him and not have to deal with his father on his own. So you're bringing me there because you don't want to deal with your father by yourself. When you put it like that, yes. Honestly, I'm not even mad. I'll take it. If he teaches me one thing, at least it'll be worth it. He is the number 2 hero. That is true. And he's also an asshole. Huh? Nothing. So after some time, finally the day to head over to the internships has come, and Azuku and Todoroki are picked up by a car and a chauffeur, and they head over to Endeavor's agency. When they arrive, Endeavor greets them both, not with open arms by any means, but he tells Azuku that he's only here to make Shoto stronger. Yeah, whatever. Endeavor scoffs at this and the casual outlook of this kid, but Azuku already knows the deal. He's been through it. He knows that his son is, by all means, privileged in terms of what he grew up on, to a certain extent at least. He knows all the trials and tribulations he went through, but having a father of this stature will definitely help you, at least when becoming a hero. Endeavor tells them both that they'll be training or sparring for the next 2 days, and then on the third day, they will head to Hosu City. Why Hosu? Well, we're gonna be going on a patrol to find the hero killer. Azuku and basically Shoto have started training every single day in terms of, well, more like every single hour for the next 2 days. They train like crazy in terms of 1v1 sparring, Shoto's quirk control, at least over his fire, and yeah, that's about it. For those, obviously those 2 days, that's all they do, and they see some substantial gains, and Endeavor realizes how effective a proper training and sparring partner is. And when the third day approaches, all three of them then head to Hosu City in search of the hero killer. But when they arrive to something they did not expect. Tons of Nomus begin surrounding Hosu City. They begin terrorizing the citizens and also fighting the pro heroes. Endeavor tells them both to stay close, but Todoroki looks at something on his phone and goes sprinting away, telling Azuku to follow him. Azuku agrees, and Endeavor tells them to not do anything stupid, and they agree. So they run off, eventually running into an alleyway. Azuku looks, and well, to see the hero killer Stain himself about to plunge his sword into one of his classmates. Quickly, Shoto blasts some fire at him, and Azuku gets 2 kunais out, ready to fight. Damn, you really put us in a bad situation, Todoroki. Yeah, I know. But I mean, he's one of our classmates, right? Azuku rolls his eyes and gets ready for a fight. Interesting. 2 of you really want to fight? I just wanted him. Fake heroes taint society, and that's what that kid is doing. He's not even a real hero, not even a pro, and he's seeking revenge. A real hero doesn't seek revenge, but that's what he's doing, right? And you two protecting the vengeful. It's funny, honestly. Very, very funny. But we'll find out soon what both you are quickly made of. Let's see if you're hero material. Stain charges at both of them, and it's visibly obvious that Stain's speed outmatches both of them very easily. Azuku tries to fend him off, and yes, he can somewhat keep up with the combat prowess, but it's still very difficult. Azuku doesn't have a quirk. He's not almighty powerful because of a quirk. He trained every day to get to this strength, and it feels like Stain is just like that, but 10 times worse. Azuku realizes this and tries his best to keep up and tells Shoto that he needs to be able to basically stall Stain out. That's the only way they're gonna win. So Azuku summons a couple shadow clones and tries to preserve his chakra as best he can to stall the fight. He doesn't want to get slashed by Stain, knowing that if he does, the fight would be over very quickly. He is the only one currently able to actually uphold close range combat, and Shoto is still getting a grasp on his fire. It wouldn't be easy for him to basically win on his own. So Azuku keeps this up. He tries to stall him out with shadow clones, but quickly they are dispelled. And eventually Stain gets to Azuku, but luckily Tenya Ida and the effect of the quirk that Stain had worn off. Tenya smacks Stain on the head with a kick, and Azuku is able to kick him up and basically punch him into a wall. Stain's not out, but so aren't the heroes that are fighting. Ida and Azuku begin switching in and out, trying to basically keep Stain at bay the best they possibly can. And well, they're able to do this until a giant fire blast smashes into Stain, crashing him into the wall. And then after the fact, the big hulking man stands in front of Stain. It's Endeavor. Endeavor made the call and finally arrived, grabbing the head of Stain and smashing it back into the ground, throwing him out of the alleyway. Stain quickly regains his composure, but Endeavor is back on him like glue. Endeavor begins beating on Stain, smashing him into the ground once again, blasting him with fire. Eventually, Stain is out cold. The police then come over to basically arrest Stain, and Endeavor is holding him. But out of nowhere, Stain drops a knife out of his mouth, slicing Endeavor in the leg, licking some of his blood, paralyzing him. Stain backs up and screams that that is not enough to defeat him, and that some fake hero like Endeavor doesn't deserve the win against him, and that the only person that can beat him is All Might. But as he says this, his, rib cage begins to collapse, and Stain goes into shock and passes out. They realize that, his internal injuries may have stopped him, but his mental capabilities are far beyond anything that anyone has ever seen. So luckily they're able to take Stain away, and Endeavor isn't seriously hurt by any means, and he takes the credit for basically defeating the hero killer, and nobody gets in trouble. But unfortunately the internships are cut very short, and they are forced to head back to UA. When they arrive, Aizawa tells them that they all have about 2 days off, but then the real thing begins. They will begin their final exams and other things like that. They'll have a written and a practical, so to be ready and to study hard. 2 days then pass, and they arrive finally to do their written portion, which is relatively easy for Azuku. But I mean, UA gets pretty hard in terms of academics because they're kind of ahead of the curve, you could say. Azuku then realizes that now it's time for the practical, and he begins thinking about what that could mean. Will it be robots? Will it be the pro heroes? Will it be some training course? Will it be against the other students? He's not sure. But he walks over with his class, and Aizawa is waiting with various other pro heroes and teachers.
I know what you guys are thinking. Why are all these pros and teachers here? Well, you all will be fighting in pairs against one of them. Let's talk about the fights. First off, we have 2 people going against me, your very own teacher. That's going to be Shoto Todoroki and Azuku Midoriya. Azuku asks why him when he doesn't even have a quirk. It wouldn't be suitable to fight Aizawa. I don't know, kid. You interest me. I kinda wanna beat you down. That doesn't sound like fun, sensei, but okay. Aizawa then explains the rest of the who people are facing, and then says that Bakugo and Momo will be fighting All Might. Azuku begins to think that that's kind of an unfair matchup, but there must be some underlying thing he's missing. And then obviously the fights go about normal. Obviously All Might is the last fight, so Azuku and Shoto
will be before that. They all head out into the city and they begin planning. Todoroki and Azuku, well, have trained in combat with each other for basically 2 days straight before. And they sort of know each other's rhythms and paths and basically how each other fight. So this will definitely be helpful for them. They begin entering the city, and Azuku asks Shoto if he can just make small little icebergs as they walk. So small that you can't really track their trail, but just enough where we know if Aizawa is near. Todoroki agrees, and he begins doing this. He begins just offering steam off his body, or mist off his body, until they finally know where Aizawa is, eventually leading to him appearing. He cancels Todoroki's quirk, and Azuku steps up. Okay, let's see if a pro hero's training is better than mine. Aizawa kind of smirks at this, and then throws his scarf at Azuku. Azuku quickly grabs it, pulling him toward him, kicking Aizawa in the chest, sending him back. Azuku tells Todoroki to make a break for the exit, and that to put a giant wall of ice behind him when he gets to a certain point that they mapped out. Todoroki agrees and makes a run for it. Aizawa tries to stop him, but Azuku doesn't let him. Now, you said you wanted to fight me, right? Let's see how good you are, sensei. Aizawa smirks, and they begin fighting. This is just pure hand-to-hand combat. Who's better than who? Who's better at strategy? Who's better at fighting? There are no quirks in this. Not right now. Azuku summons a couple shadow clones, in which Aizawa was able to read and get rid of them very quickly until Azuku's body begins to electrify. I just needed some time, sensei, and you gave it to me. Azuku dashes at Aizawa at insane speeds, but the thing is, what did Kakashi tell him a long time ago about this technique? About the Chidori, and about, well, using this lightning-like techniques. When he dives straight at Aizawa, Aizawa quickly parries and punches Azuku straight across the face. This slightly electrifies Aizawa, but he's good enough to keep moving. And he makes a break for where Todoroki just was, but as he arrives, he sees a giant iceberg cutting him off. Damn, kid stalled me long enough. Nezu then comes on the intercom and says that Azuku Midoriya and Shoto Todoroki pass. Azuku stands up, kind of hurt, and he walks over to Aizawa. Yeah, you didn't beat me fast enough, sensei. Yeah, whatever, kid. You did good. They walk over, and finally they watch All Might versus Bakugo and Momo, in which Bakugo, well, they're able to win, but they're able to win via escape because of a plan that Momo came up with to slightly slow down All Might, which worked out for the best. And even though Bakugo refused to just, well, pass, he wanted to fight All Might, prove that he was stronger than him, in which he obviously wasn't. But luckily they were able to pass, and, well, Bakugo just would have to go to Recovery Girl more than anybody out of this time after. One more day passes, and, well, Aizawa tells them that they will be going to a forest training camp, and that, well, the people that didn't pass will be going with them still, but will have to take, well, other courses and classes while they're there. So they all head off, and when they arrive, they actually stop at a cliffside. And, well, Azuku has a bad feeling about this. Some of the students feel that, oh, maybe it could be just some sightseeing, and maybe they're just looking over the nice forest for now. But what they don't understand is that's definitely not why they are here. When they arrive, they're actually greeted by the Wild Pussycats, who have their own agency, and it's a relatively popular one. They're not a top-ranked group by any means, but they are sort of well known. And they basically begin explaining who they are, and They then see the bus for Class 1B go by them. Azuku's suspicions are now confirmed. They're gonna get thrown off this mountain. They all begin to run, trying to run back to their bus, but unfortunately, the mountain begins to change and it throws them off the cliff. Azuku, while falling, sticks his kunai into the wall and then jumps off onto the ground. Aizawa leans over the cliff and screams, "Yeah, make it to the camp by sundown, or you don't get food. Yeah, good luck." Aizawa then walks away, and the class is visibly frustrated and thinks that it could be pretty easy to travel through a forest until they see a giant monster and various others, one flying in the sky and many others scouring the lands. They begin fighting their way through the forest. As an entirety of a class, they're able to fend off these so-called monsters relatively easy. But Azuku can quickly tell that without the help of his classmates, he would be struggling currently right now. He has some thoughts about someone with raw power and in terms of beating him. When someone has an extreme amount of power, it makes it extremely hard for him, to fight them 1 versus 1. And when stuff like that occurs, he tends to lean on others and at least get help from others, which isn't wrong by any means, but he still feels that it's something he needs to work on and something he wants to work on at the forest training camp. So they battle through all of these mountain-like monsters that have wings, and they're basically like dinosaurs, and eventually they arrive at the camp. Aizawa tells them that they didn't get here on time, but they're still allowed to eat and all of that. So Aizawa tells them all to go get food from the cafeteria and then hit the showers and then head to bed. Azuku does just that. He goes, eats some food. They all then go to this hot spring area and begin getting cleaned off. In which, Mineta does his normal Mineta things and gets thrown off the little ledge by Kota himself. Azuku takes a liking to this kid. He doesn't really know why, but he enjoys the idea that a kid is questioning the job of heroes, questioning why heroes are so important in this society. And he kind of admires that, especially at a young age, where all he personally could think about was becoming a hero, pushing himself to the limits to be one. So it's interesting to see another child, that could have been him when he was younger. But what he doesn't know is that there's a lot deeper backstory to why Kota is this way. He actually asked Mandalay this later on, and she tells him, about Kota's life and how both of his parents were killed in a villain attack. And he, basically hates heroes ever since then. And that it doesn't matter what quirk or anything you have, you'll still end up dead. Azuku is shocked to hear this. He's been questioning himself all his life about the lack of a quirk, and this boy even doubts the fact that someone with a minorly strong quirk could live in this society without the threat of dying by a villain the next day. Azuku decides that he wants to talk to him, and he walks up to the kid, and Kota just scoffs and doesn't want to listen. But Azuku then proceeds and tells him that he is quirkless. Kota turns and questions him. Why would you want to be a hero then? It's too risky. You're just gonna sacrifice your life for what? I don't know, Kota. I don't know. For the people around me, for the people I care about, I'd give my life any day for the people I care about. If that means that they'll be able to go on and have a better life in the future, so be it. I'd love that for them. Kota questions him again, and that doesn't he want to live? It sounds like he's just throwing his life away, but Azuku disagrees. That if he personally could give his life to save many, he would do that. and quirkless or not, I mean, that's the hero thing to do. Kota doesn't necessarily understand the mindset, but he does respect the opinion of Azuku, especially because he is quirkless himself. Azuku being quirkless but then standing up for the people who have quirks is something Kota definitely can respect in his own right. Azuku is then told to head to bed by Aizawa, and he does just that. The next day, Aizawa basically tells the class that they will all be working on, well, their weaknesses. Aizawa tells them all what their weaknesses are and tells them to go train until he gets to Azuku. And Aizawa explains that raw strength is definitely his weakness. He has plans, strategies, power himself by all means, but when an opponent is that strong, kind of like the Gnome in the USJ, he needs to somehow overcome and climb that mountain. Azuku nods and even says that he's been thinking about this for a while, and he agrees. So he starts sparring with anybody that he can, including Aizawa. He spars with Aizawa, Tiger, and many others that would actually put up a good fight against him because of their raw strength. Even Todoroki, in which they've been training together, but that was only sparring. Azuku wants to take it up a notch. Azuku wants to push himself further than that. So that's what he does. He begins training harder and harder, and basically it allows him to hopefully keep up with that power gap that those quirks are giving people, that quirks are giving people and giving villains. After that day passes, the next day is soon to come, and they begin doing the same thing over again, but both the 1B and 1A teachers, which is Aizawa and Vlad King, decide to give them, well, some time off to rest and maybe do a little game. So their game starts, a game of basically courage, and it's class 1B hides in the forest while class 1A goes in and tries not to get scared, stuff like that. Well, during this, Azuku was getting food and saw Kota head to the mountain, and as this occurs, not too long after, fire erupts from the forest. Azuku begins to scream out to anybody in the forest to tell them to get back, and then he remembers Kota's on the mountain currently by himself. Aizawa tells him not to make a move, and, well, Azuku doesn't listen. Azuku bolts off toward the mountain as quickly as possible, scaling it, and then jumping up, seeing Kota sitting there. Hey, you okay? Yeah, what's going on? I'm not sure. It might be a villain attack. We need to get you back to the camp. As Azuku says this, a voice is then heard from the shadows. Get you back to the camp, huh? You're not going anywhere. Neither of you are. Azuku yells for Kota to get behind him, and a huge hulking figure emerges. Azuku knows that he needs to make this fight quick and pulls out 2 kunais. Oh, knives. Oh, this is interesting. I thought you were a hero. Didn't know heroes would cut people. Shut up. It's not what this is about. I'm here to save this kid, and that's it. Save him, huh? Interesting. Well, we'll see about that. Muscular, the villain standing in front of Azuku, charges at him. Azuku pushes Kota out of the way, and Azuku gets punched into the mountain. He's able to shrug it off a little bit, but obviously is hurt. He gets back up and activates this electricity around his body once again, knowing that he won't be able to hold this for very long, but hopefully he'll be able to whittle down Muscular to the point of, well, submission. Azuku charges in, throwing a kunai at his leg, trying to slow him down and punching him in the face. Muscular grabs onto him though. Come on, kid. Raw power. My power is far beyond anything you've ever seen. Azuku can feel his limbs breaking as Muscular squeezes on tight to his arms. Kota screams out and blasts the big villain with water. Azuku realizes that Kota just awakened his quirk, but that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not good enough. It's not enough. Azuku basically slides under Muscular, kicking him in the face, but it's still stuck in the grasps of Muscular. He can't get free. Muscular breaks one of Azuku's arms, and Azuku amps the electricity all over his body, grabbing onto one of the muscles Muscular is basically showing, and just begins electrocuting him the best he possibly can. Muscular begins trying to punch Azuku off of him, and Kota cries and screams for Azuku to get out of there. Azuku smiles to him and tells him to just run, and to not worry about him, that he'll see him at the camp. Azuku digs deep, grabbing the back of Muscular's neck, continuing to shock him. Muscular is able to grab Azuku once again though, getting him off of him, and slamming Azuku back to the ground, breaking 3 of his ribs. Azuku stumbles to his feet and begins thinking about the training that Kakashi told him. Everything Kakashi put him through, made him work for. Pain is nothing. Don't focus on pain. Pain will come with the job. That's just how it works. And Azuku took this to heart. He began to push forward. His body ached. His ribs were practically puncturing his lungs, and his arm, there was no feeling in his left arm. He had one right arm and 2 good legs, and that's all he needed, and he knew that he could win this fight still. Muscular was still hurting from the electrocution, and Azuku charges in once again, laying a right hand on his chin, and then grabbing his neck once again, trying to choke Muscular out cold. But with one arm gone, he had to switch to his legs, putting Muscular in a chokehold using those legs that he spoke of. He begins choking Muscular, but Muscular grabs onto one of his legs, breaking it as well. And Azuku screams in agony as he summons a Chidori right into his right hand, and he slams it into Muscular's back of his head, and Muscular is knocked out cold. But he lands straight on Azuku, and Azuku is not only completely out of chakra, out of stamina, and well, out of a will to fight. They're both basically double KO'd, and well, Azuku can't feel half of his body. Aizawa eventually stumbles across him and basically begins to freak out, grabbing Muscular and realizing that the villain is out cold. He puts cuffs on him and sees Azuku slowly breathing, labored breathing, not breathing very well by any means, and he picks him up. "Kid, what the hell did you do?" He runs Azuku out of there to the nearest hospital, and he brings him in, and they immediately send him to surgery. But during surgery, they realize something. The broken arm that he had wasn't just a broken arm. Everything in his arm was shattered. His elbow was shattered. Entirety of his arm was shattered. Parts of his hand were completely gone. His leg snapped in half and is practically fractured in 15 different places. And those ribs that he knew that were broken, they were puncturing his lungs, and it was bad. Azuku was in really bad shape. Aizawa waited there for hours until Azuku was finally out of surgery, and well, the doctors told them that he'll be okay, that he'll make a recovery. And Aizawa asked the question that nobody wanted to ask. He asked if he was okay enough to still be a hero, and the doctor just shook their head. "No, I'm sorry. There's no way someone can go through pain like this, go through torment, not just physical, mental as well. His arms were shattered, leg was shattered, ribs puncturing his lungs. The kid is lucky to be alive. Lucky that he'll be able to walk again. Lucky he'll be able to hopefully have kids, walk down the aisle with his daughter. That's what he's lucky for. Hero work is out of the question. There's no way." Azuku was out cold, but even he knew this was to be true. He knew once he got into the fight with that man, the muscular villain, this huge monster, he knew that him not having a quirk meant the worst. Meant that this would be his final fight. But like he said before, he didn't care. He would sacrifice his own life if that meant the safety of others. And that's what exactly that fight meant to him. Days and weeks pass and Azuku finally wakes up. And Aizawa is sitting at the bed and he begins to break the news to Azuku, but he already knows. Yeah, I know, Sensei. I know. But it's better that I'm broken than dead, right? Aizawa asks him how could he be so cool about it, that this is serious, that he can't be a hero anymore. I would rather not be able to be a hero, Aizawa Sensei, than watch as I could have done something and Koda lost his life. Kid is a lot younger than me. He has a lot more ahead of him. I pushed myself to the brink of death to get to the point I'm at right now. I hope he can push himself to be an even better hero than me. Well, which that won't be very hard, right? Azuku begins to laugh, but he starts hurting because of his ribs, and Aizawa tells him that he shouldn't overexert himself, that he's still going to have to recover for months. But that never question how good of a hero he was. That Azuku will, well, have a spot in UA at any time in the hero course. That he doesn't care if he can't participate in the hero activities, that he could teach all of them something. Yeah, I definitely feel like I could. And that would be nice. Stay with my fellow classmates, yeah? Aizawa smiles and says that he wouldn't want it any other way. So, after months of recovery, Azuku is finally allowed to go back into UA, and in which he can't really do much. He can't really do any hero stuff, but he still is hopeful. Hopeful that one day he'll be able to make a recovery and, well, go back to doing what he loves most, saving people. But that's a story for another day, and a story that may never happen. And that is the story of what if Deku was trained by Kakashi.